What I would recommend with this is I would back up in even increments. I would start off, 10, 12 feet away. Then I'd go 20, 25 feet. Okay, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make a simple Balearic sling. And we've got 6 pieces of jute twine here that are about close to probably 7 feet long, somewhere in that neighborhood. Our finished length of this thing should be about 6 feet. So I cut some extra off of that thing, somewhere between 5.5 and 6 feet. Now, for this loop that we're creating, we need to make sure that we have enough to braid it so it can go around our finger, and there's enough tail left over to braid it into the strand so we can make a continuous loop. So I'm gonna braid this as tight as I can up against the knot by taking it in sections of 2s. So I'm braiding 6 strands, 2 at a time, okay? And I'm pulling as tight as I can get it up into that knot for right now. And I'm gonna braid that down until I've got enough to create the loop that goes around my finger. And then we're gonna change our position here. That should probably be enough right there to go around my middle finger. Might need just a little bit more than that. I would say that's probably enough for sure. All right. Okay, that's definitely enough right there. Now we're gonna stop where we're at, because now we have to braid this loop back into this line. So we're gonna take this off of here. We're gonna pull it out. And now we just want the loop hanging right here so we can braid it all together. And let's pinch that together first. Make sure that's gonna fit over our finger, and it is, just like that. And we're gonna braid this loop right back into this line. So now we kind of have to do some of this by hand. So we're gonna have to figure out where our 2s are at here, just like this and this. And then we need to separate these 2s as well and kind of connect them to these like this, okay? And then just kind of pull everything straight so we get it all straightened out so we're not wrapping stuff up too bad. Give ourselves a couple good wraps on here of those 6 strands plus the 3. Once we get that, then we can come up here and we can hang this loop again, just like this, and continue on with that until we run that out, okay? And you're gonna tangle these lines up as you go, so just keep pulling them straight. And these tails will disappear. Don't sweat that. What doesn't disappear, you can always cut off. But you're just gonna go all the way down till you got it past it, and you're braiding again with just 2 lines on each side. So you've got a 6-strand braid going on now, okay? So you've tapered it a little bit from that end, the hold end, or the anchor end, and now you're just doing a regular 6-strand braid here, okay? With 3 strands. And now that you've got that loop eye tucked in, now you can just go to the regular braid with doubles here. So you got 2, 2, always going to the middle with the outside one, just like this. And we're gonna go down this length until we get our half length that we want, and then we'll put our pocket in. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a measurement. We're gonna see where we're at. So we're gonna go right here from our elbow. We want our fingertip to be about right where that's at, okay? That's what we're looking for. That's plenty long. That's about 18 inches long here. When you add a couple inches for pocket, you're gonna be at 20. 24 would be the outside, right? But doing it by your arm length is pretty good measuring bet, okay? Elbow to your middle finger to the mid loop. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start our loop for our ammunition, okay? And what this is, it's not a loop like you would see on something like a slingshot. What you're going to do is you're gonna separate this into 3 and 3, like this, and you're going to braid those 3 separately. And now you're going to do this. You're going to pull those up tight, and you're going to braid these 3 as one line. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get a double-sided pocket, basically a sling, that will hold a stone about the size of a golf ball. And we'll use golf balls for practice. We'll use foam golf balls to practice this with. And so we want this sling to be able to hold a golf ball. So we need to make this leg long enough that when we braid 2 of these together here and here, we can put a golf ball in here and it will sit basically in the sling without falling through, okay? And some of that takes a little eye if you don't have a golf ball to measure it with. I'm gonna eyeball it, see how I do. I think I'm pretty close right now. It's gonna sag a little bit. I'm gonna measure that with my finger, and I'm gonna say that I'm pretty close there. 2/2 of a golf ball. Maybe just a little bit more, a couple turns. Call that good. Then we're gonna go to this other side, and we're gonna do the same thing and make it the same length. So now we need to start on this other side and braid these 3 lines as one. Outside to the middle, 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 pulling everything tight all the way. Okay, there we are. That's probably about where we want to be right there. We can kind of look at that and gauge it. Say, hey, is a golf ball going to sit in that? It probably is, okay? So we're good. Now, we're going to go right back to where we started. We're going to separate 2 of these off to the side, 2 of these off to the side, untangle our mess we got in the bottom here. And we're going to start braiding this back in 2s again, just like this going down. Now we've created our pocket. Now we have this as our pocket for our sling right here, okay? That's where our golf ball is going to set, right there. For a Balearic sling, that's what you want for a pocket. Now we're going to go down and we're going to keep this going for a little while until we get it about the same length as our other side. And before we get there, we're going to start to taper this a little bit, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so now we're going to measure. We're going to take the sling and hold it in the middle. And when I get about halfway up this, or about right here, is when I want to start thinning, okay? So I'm not there yet. So I'm just going to keep on braiding and recheck in a minute. Pulling this tight as you're braiding it will keep things tight because you can yank against everything and keep a really nice tight braid that way. Okay, now I've got about half the distance from the other side. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop 1 string off and continue. So I just dropped 1 off, continue down. That's going to taper this out, okay? I'll go down 5, 6 braids, and I'll drop 1 from the other outside, like this. And now we're tapering this down to a 3-strand braid. I'm going to go a little further with this one before I drop it off. Give myself some beef here at the end. And now is when we need to start looking at our total measurement and divide this thing in half and see where we're at, because we want the opposite end of this, the hold end, to be not much longer than our pocket end or our anchor end, just enough that we can hold it in our hand to release it, okay? Let's kind of see where we're at here. Now, if we double this up, we're pretty close to where we need to be right here. All right, so now I want to give myself a little extra length on this side. So now I'm going to drop this one off the side right here. This one's in the middle. Now I'm going to give myself a few 3-strand braids here to give myself that tail I need to hang on to. Now I've got 3 lines hanging. That means I've got 3 at the end, and I've tapered my line going down. And when I get this thing down to where I want it, so I'm getting pretty close, I'm gonna double it up and check myself here, see how much extra I've got. A little bit. I'm gonna give myself a little more than that. Now when I get down to the end here, as long as I want this thing, I'm just gonna tie an overhand knot in it for right now. I'm not gonna get fancy with that. And I'm gonna make sure that the braid is in that knot, right to the edge. Just like that, okay? And then we'll cut all this stuff off and we'll finish our sling. All right, so the next step here is to basically trim these ends off and get them out of our way. Just like that. Come down here and trim these tags off where we have dropped the line on our tapering. Just like that. Now we've got some left here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this off about right here. Just leave myself a little bit of a tail here. That'll turn into a whip in the end. And basically now we have our Balearic Sling. So we have something that we can put around our finger here, just like this. Bring this around and load our ball into it from here. Want to make sure everything kind of lays flat. And when we grab onto this dude right here, just like that, to throw it, we're about right. We can always adjust this up and down this way. I'd rather be longer than too short. Okay, one thing I didn't show you was, before I came over here to cut these tags off, I actually hung this loop from that hook that we were working off of, and I stretched this rope really hard by hand to set the rope, very much like you're making rope. And what that does is it allows this thing to lay nice and flat along its length, and that's important. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here, we're gonna cut off all of this excess stuff, just burn it away that we don't need on there. All these fuzzies hanging off of it, we're gonna burn them off. Okay, once we've got all of that done, the next step is to get this thing soaking wet, stretch it while it's wet, and then hang it out to dry. And then we'll wax it, and then it'll be ready to use. Okay, so we finished our Balearic Sling here. And you can see I had to take a little up in it right here because the pocket was a little bit too big for a golf ball. So you really want to measure that and not eyeball it if you can. I eyeballed this one and it was a little bit too long, the pocket was. So I had to tie it off a little bit. It doesn't affect it any, it still works the same way. It just doesn't look as nice with that tie off in it as it would have looked without it, okay? And there's our tapered end, our whip end, and there's our end for our finger. Now, we're going to set this one aside for a minute. This one here is a paracord sling with a paracord woven pocket. It's the same. It has the loop end, the release end, and a pocket. This one will throw golf balls, rocks, egg sinkers, whatever you want to throw in this bad boy, it'll throw it. And there's nothing wrong with that type of sling either. It's cheap and easy to make. This is a Balearic sling that's made for tennis balls. It's a little bit longer, but it's exactly the same design and process that I showed in this video. But you want this pocket, I got a tennis ball right here. You want a pocket that will sit on that tennis ball but not let it go through, okay? So that it traps that tennis ball in the pocket, before you throw it. Now, tennis balls are a great way to learn to throw a sling, and I'm no slinger, okay? I'm really new to this. I threw them when I was a kid a little bit. I've thrown them since then a few times, but I'm not somebody who goes out and throws 1,000 bullets with a sling, okay? I'm not good at it at all. What I'm gonna show you is how I'm planning to get good at it, by what I've read on the internet, by some research I've done, and by the probably 100 tennis balls and golf balls I've thrown so far, okay? What I did was I just got a mesh tarp. And you can buy these things cheap at Lowe's or Home Depot or even on Amazon. And I just painted a red circle in it with a red spray paint. And that thing is probably a 10 by 12 tarp. So it's plenty big enough that if you can hit the broadside of a barn, which believe me, you're gonna miss this tarp. You're gonna miss this tarp. Trust me, when you first start doing this, I probably have 5 golf balls in the woods right now, and this tarp is huge, okay? Tennis balls are a little easier to find, which is why I switched to those with this sling, because they're a little easier to find. They don't travel as far. Now I've got some foam golf balls coming, like practice golf balls that are bright orange, and I'm gonna practice with those in this other sling for a smaller bullet. But a lot of people I see slinging throw tennis balls in their slings. So it's a good way to practice. And with this mesh, when it hits this, it just drops right to the ground. So as long as you can hit the broadside of a barn, which we're gonna talk about that in a minute, and how close you should stand to this thing to begin with, you'll be able to retrieve your ammunition easy enough, quick and dirty, and keep practicing. And you can give yourself as long a range as you want away from that, all right? So, the sling has a few components here. It has a finger loop that goes on this direction, all right, so that the sling lays flat. So you wanna put that on there so that your sling braid is laying flat. And follow that up, and everything should be laying flat, and you have an end here that should be about in the middle of the pocket when you hold it, and it's got ammunition in it. This is your release, okay, between your thumb and forefinger. And this is your pocket. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your ammunition, you're going to place it in the pocket, and I just kind of push it over the top like that. When you hold that, if your knot's in the correct place, you should be fairly even when that thing's hanging. If you're not even, then you need to move this knot, okay? So that when it's comfortably hanging in front of you, it is level. That's gonna be important, because if this knot is long or short, you're gonna be throwing off to the side sooner or later. You're gonna do that enough as it is. All right, let's talk about this. Now, I'm left-handed, so I put this thing on the left side so you can see this. I am standing literally 12 feet away from this tarp. I don't want stuff going in the woods at this point. I'm not even gonna be throwing fast. All I'm gonna do is practice the form. And the form really is to take this thing and swing it over your head. And most of the guys I see are throwing either a baseball type throw or a sidearm throw. Some of the guys I see that are really good at this at long distance are actually throwing sidearm. So all you're gonna do is turn it around and release, okay? When you let go of that knot, that ball's coming out. If you let go early, it's going off to the side somewhere. If you let go late, you're gonna have a problem there too. So, again, make sure that that braid is laying flat and there's no twist in things when you load the sling. It's important because it does throw your shots off, okay? And again, don't go fast. Just practice your release. Practice your release, okay? It's very much like throwing a baseball. And if you step into it a little bit when you throw it, you're gonna be more accurate, okay? And you're like, well, you're only 12 feet away, you should be hitting it. Yep, you're right, I should be. But you'd be surprised at 15 or 20 feet, how many miss it completely, all right? So just do this until you can't do it wrong. If that takes 200 throws, do that till you can't do it wrong. That's what I'm doing, okay? And that's how I'm learning to do this. That one missed the entire tarp and I'm 12 feet away. Okay, so it's very easy to miss that tarp even right in front of it, because if you release this too early, it's gonna come out. You've gotta get your rhythm down, you've gotta get used to it. You gotta warm up a little bit. And before you go anywhere of any distance, I would say you do it close up. So for the last couple days, I've been throwing from this distance. A little bit sidearm, a little bit overhand, just to kind of see where my accuracy is hitting that dot. So as I get my form down, I'll speed up. Right now, I'm not trying to take out Goliath here, okay? All I'm doing is practicing my releases, practicing my aim. Now, what I would recommend with this is I would back up in even increments. I would start off, 10, 12 feet away. Then I'd go 20, 25 feet. All right, guys, listen, I hope this video helped you out a little bit. Showed you how to possibly make your first Balearic style sling. Showed you how to practice a little bit to get more confident and get better. To me, it's another tool in a toolbox, another primitive weapon that you could make out of natural cordage if you took the time to do it. So it's something that's easily reproducible off the landscape. Ammunition can be found in any creek bed. So for that alone, it's worth understanding this skill. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you joining me again for this video today here at Pathfinder School, talking about how to weave a Balearic sling out of jute twine. Again, I think it's a very valuable skill. It's something that you need to practice a lot to master, very much like slingshots, archery, shooting sports, anything like that. You have to practice it over and over and over and over again. But I'm trying to show you a safe and easy way to do that so that you can practice it on your own over and over without having to go out and find more ammunition. This is the way to learn it with non-expendable ammunition that you can recover. And then once you get more practiced, you can go out and practice it in the wild as well. But this is a good, safe option for practice. Tennis balls, foam golf balls, those things don't weigh anything. So even if you miss the target, they don't go too far. And if you're practicing throwing distance and things like that, they're good for that as well. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back in another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.